This coming Sunday is Proper 28, or the 23rd Sunday after Pentecost. After this Sunday, we have just one more Sunday left of this liturgical year. In just 2 weeks, we will begin again with Advent, preparing for the nativity of Jesus. When I looked at this week's gospel text, I had a feeling of deja vu. So I looked back in my notes, and sure enough, today's text, the wedding at Cana, is the same gospel text that Dr. Gaffney chose for the 5th week of Epiphany. So we contemplated it on February the 3rd. So I don't know much about lectionaries, but I don't think that passages are usually repeated within the same year. So Gaffney doesn't say why she chose to rerun this passage. It might simply be an editing error, but I'm celebrating it because it feels rather Ignatian to me. A hallmark of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius is repetition. Um, St. Ignatius felt that as we enter the same text again and again, we will feel drawn to different parts of the story as we encounter the scene in a different way. It can lead us to deeper understanding and richer revelation. So may God reveal something new today in this story, which some of us pondered together just 9 months ago. This story we will contemplate today occurs near the very beginning of the Gospel of John, just before the story that we contemplated last week, when Jesus caused a stir at the temple. So far in this gospel, what has occurred was the Word has become flesh, and then we meet John the Baptist, who testified that Jesus is the chosen one. Then some of John's disciples and a few others began to follow Jesus. And that's it. So we are at the very beginning of chapter 2, and we don't know much about Jesus yet. So let's go ahead and dive into this passage, putting ourselves in the scene as if we don't know much about Jesus yet, seeing what we can learn about Jesus here at this wedding in Cana, as we imagine ourselves as part of this story. Before I read the passage, I will light my candle as a symbol of God's presence with us here today. Maybe I have to turn it on in the bottom. There we go. And I will pray for the following graces: to know Jesus more intimately, to love him more intensely, and to follow him more closely. John 2, 1-11. On the 3rd day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory. And his disciples believed in him. The word of the Lord. So before I guide you through the passage with questions and pauses, I invite you to take a couple of centering breaths, breathing in God's Spirit and breathing out anything that distracts you from being in the presence of God. I pray again for today's graces, to know Jesus more intimately, to love him more intensely, and to follow him more closely. I invite you to enter the story. On the 3rd day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. As you enter the scene of the wedding, what are you feeling? Are you excited that the busy harvest season is now complete and you are invited to rest and feast at this celebratory festival for the next several days? The whole town has been invited to this wedding. Look around you, see who all is here. Do you see the young girl, the bride who is to be wed? What does she look like? Does she seem nervous or excited or hopeful? Do you see the man who is to become her husband? What does he look like? Does he seem nervous or excited or hopeful? How do the bride and the groom interact with each other? Is there music playing? Perhaps a band is singing familiar love tunes from the Song of Solomon. Do you join in singing? How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume more than any spice. Perhaps there's dancing and joy that fills the room. What kinds of foods are piled on the banquet table? What do you choose to eat? How does it taste? As you wash your food down with wine, how does that taste? Who do you visit with here at the wedding? And the mother of Jesus was there. Do you go over to Mary and visit with her? If so, what do you talk about? Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. Do you see Jesus and the people who had begun to follow him? What do you notice about him? Is there anything that draws you to him? Or is he just another person in the crowd? When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, They have no wine. Had you noticed that the wine was running low before you saw Mary mention it to Jesus? Does the fear of scarcity enter your mind? What happens when the wine runs out? And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." What do you feel as you hear Jesus say this to his mother? Are you confused by his words? His hour for what? His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." How do the servants respond to Mary's words? Why would Jesus tell them to do anything? Didn't he just indicate that the wine situation wasn't his problem? Does Mary walk away at this point, or is she still standing here watching what unfolds? Now, standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. What do these huge stone jars look like? Do they have any water in them? Have they recently been used? Perhaps you, along with the other wedding guests, visited these jars earlier in the day to perform the Netalat Yadayim ritual hand washing before partaking of the feast. Is there any use for these jars now? Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. Purification jars must be filled with running water from a stream or living water, as it is called. How far away do the servants need to go to find living water to put into the jars? Wouldn't their time be better spent going to purchase more wine? Imagine how long it takes them to fill up these 6 huge jars with 120 to 180 gallons of water. Such an abundant amount of water. Do any of the servants question Jesus' very odd request? As they go back and forth from the house to the stream, drawing this water, this living water. Jesus said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. What might the servants be thinking as they serve purification water to the chief steward? "Do whatever he tells you," Mary had said to them. But this could get them into serious trouble. Do they fear how the chief steward will respond if he learns that the water they are serving him was just drawn from the bathing vessels? What compels them to obey Jesus? When the steward tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came from, the servants who had drawn the water knew. The steward called the bridegroom. How does the steward react to the taste? What is his facial expression when he takes a sip? At what point do the servants know that the water has become wine? And how do they respond? when the steward calls over the bridegroom. And the steward said to the bridegroom, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." How does the bridegroom react to this compliment? Was he confused? Did he even know that the wine had run out? How do the servants react? And the other guests, are they paying attention to this interaction? Are they aware of this generous act of mercy playing out in the shadows with these servants who chose to trust? Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory. Consider who Jesus revealed his glory to. How many people at the wedding celebration knew what had happened and understood this to be a sign? And his disciples believed in him. I invite you to spend the next 10 minutes in a colloquy with the divine. Speak with God about what you experienced during this contemplation, especially the parts of the story that caused you to experience strong emotions. What might God want to say to you about your life or the life of your community as it relates to this story? When I sound my chimes, that will indicate that you have about a minute to wrap up your colloquy, after which time I will end the silence with this week's psalm. If you're doing this contemplation later with the recording, go ahead and hit pause now and spend as much time in conversation with God as you would like, and restart the video when you're ready to hear the psalm read. Psalm 89, verses 1 to 8 and 14. I will sing of the faithful love of the fount of life forever. With my mouth I will make known your faithfulness from across the generations. When I declare that your faithful love is established forever, your faithfulness is established in the heavens. You responded, I have inscribed a covenant with my chosen one. I have sworn an oath to the descendants of Bathsheba. I will establish your line forever. Your throne that I will build will be to all generations. The heavens confess your wonders, O womb of creation, and to your faithfulness in the congregation of the holy ones. For who in the skies can be compared to the womb of life? Who is like the mother of all among the children of the gods? A dread God in the council of the holy ones, great and terrible above all who surround her. Warrior protectrix, who is mighty like you? You who are, your faithfulness surrounds you. Righteousness and justice are the foundations of your throne. Enduring love and faithfulness go before your face. Amen.